Last week I asked all the ministries represented here whose ministers sit on the National Security Council whether those ministers own shares in Rheinmetall or other arms companies. The answer was consistently that the spokespersons were not aware of this. Now I assume that a week was enough time so that the respective houses have now clarified the questions internally and can give specific information today about whether and to what extent the Chancellor and the relevant ministers have holdings in arms companies.
This interview is turning into an absolute disaster, the way this government is carrying on here. When you hear these numbers that are about to come up, I swear to you, you'll be floored. Everything has been proven. And yes, today I will also speak plainly about whether I own such stocks, and if so, how many of them. And if you want to support this channel, I would really appreciate a like and a subscription so that there will be many more formats like this.
Mr. Cornelius, if you want to start things off and then, but really...
I'm happy to start things off for all the speakers. I would ask you to submit your question in writing. We'll circulate it internally and then you'll get an answer. I suggest we not use this opportunity to go around questioning everyone one by one.
At the first inquiry about how much money our politicians are actually making from the Russia-Ukraine conflict, among other things, this federal government immediately goes on the defensive. Cornelius immediately says, "I'll answer that directly for everyone so that no one says a single wrong word here." And now the situation is escalating, and I'm telling you, it's going to be absolutely dramatic.
Transparency is considered one of the cornerstones of democratic societies. I would be interested to know, Mr. Cornelius, how it is currently ensured that the federal ministers in the National Security Council do not use their inside knowledge for insider trading with defense stocks. Given the fact that the disclosure requirement, as we clarified last week, only kicks in at a 5% stake, chancellors as well as ministers could legally conduct stock transactions worth millions without having to report them.
And now pay attention to the answer, how confidently or not so confidently he responds, and whether he gets caught up in contradictions. And pay very close attention to his gestures and facial expressions, because he probably knows exactly how many shares the Chancellor actually holds, including Rheinmetall shares. And let's be honest, the profit margin was gigantic. If you had known beforehand that this war could drag on for years and decades.
But if you are implying conspiratorial actions, I have to strongly reject that here. The federal government and its members are subject in their private business and financial conduct to the rules set by the legislature. They are also reviewed in this regard. You can be sure that they comply with these rules.
But how about this transparency gap of 5% ownership?
They've really hit a sore spot here. Only then, if a minister or a chancellor had 5 billion euros in Rheinmetall, would he have to declare the whole thing. And if, for example, you had invested €1 million, among other things, in Rheinmetall shortly before or after the war broke out, you would now have €11 million at your disposal as of today. If you hadn't already sold a bit beforehand, and the area of insider trading, of course, definitely can't be dismissed. I'm not accusing anyone of that, but of course it would be extremely easy and simple to do, for example, by not being eager to push peace negotiations forward. But as I said, I'm not accusing anyone here of helping to finance this war. And now comes the bombshell, and I'll tell you right away why even I bought stocks and what I based that decision on. And even though I labeled it as advertising at the beginning, it was simply important to me. I'm not going to tell you where to get them because you can buy them all through your own accounts. Or rather, you can even get them at Sparkasse and Volksbank.
But 47,000 arms contracts in 4 years means about 30 deals per day. You gave a similar answer to the Left Parliamentary Group just a few days ago in response to a formal parliamentary inquiry. It's surprising that with this scale of arms contracts, there's no overview of whether this equipment are actually delivered to the Bundeswehr in working condition. Can you explain why the Bundeswehr says it has no overview of this?
No, I would definitely never invest in German defense stocks. Why not? They're simply not sustainable for me. I've picked out a stock and I'll explain it to you now. It's called Zenitecum. I'll show it briefly. Instead of going all in and speculating on some defense companies that could go bankrupt after the war, I preferred to look for a safe haven. And for that, I used 10 attack at the latest. But here they can also use their drones for other purposes, for example, to make agriculture absolutely efficient. Why? Because they use quantum computers. Basically, that's what everyone is so excited about right now. Yes, among other things, it's also about rare earths and so on. This company will probably be a winner, and at the same time, it's still being massively sold off right now. Yes, it's at a little over €1, and this is exactly where I'm jumping in now because I'm getting myself 100, or rather, I'm going to get 200 of these shares, and be careful, this is not investment advice or anything like that. I'm buying the 10 attack up to 200 shares at €1 each. And then I'll just leave them for 5 to 10 years. Then to get even more out of it. Leading analysts say there's a growth potential of about 300 to 600%.
We're talking about an amount in the hundreds of billions.
Exactly. So I didn't say that, and I don't endorse that either, that we wouldn't know whether our contracts would be fulfilled and whether it would arrive at our farm. You can be sure about that. When we make contracts, they certainly don't just fizzle out.
No, we just won't inform the citizens about it. Just imagine if anyone could do this and knew which stocks might skyrocket in the future. And that's exactly the outrage, and that's exactly the disgusting thing that I always see. Politicians, of course, don't have insider knowledge, but they do know what things are really like right now in Russia and Ukraine. And no, they're still not releasing anything. And even now, when Gerhard Schroeder was supposed to negotiate with Vladimir Putin, it was rejected by all sides. I'm not accusing anyone of anything, but for me personally, it just reeks to high heaven.
Bureaucratically, even in case of doubt, it wouldn't make any sense at all to keep these spreadsheets. But of course, our contracts don't just disappear. What we order, what we commission, it does reach us.
So you don't know, you know whether it arrives or not. And at the same time, you say, well, we don't need to keep Excel spreadsheets about it. We know that it arrives, or we don't know what arrives. That leaves a really bad taste in my mouth. How can you have so many contradictions in just 30 seconds? We have no idea, yeah, but we know what's coming, but we definitely won't tell you. Just imagine if the citizens here in Germany knew what or where they should actually invest, because just imagine if some citizen had known that this war between Ukraine and Russia would last at least another 4 years. And yes, I also know how long the Second World War lasted. And from the very beginning, you would have bought Rheinmetall defense stocks for €100. Just think about it and ask yourselves why there are still no peace negotiations, the attack in this case. Well, at least they still care about agriculture, because after this disaster out there, we're really going to need food.